Lord Christ.
Jesus said, "The kingdom of heaven will be as when a man, going on a journey, summoned his slaves and entrusted his property to them. To one he gave 5 talents, to another 2, to another 1, to each according to his ability. Then he went away. The one who had received the 5 talents went off at once and traded with them, and made 5 more talents. In the same way, the one who had the 2 talents made 2 more talents. But the one who had received the 1 talent went off and dug a hole in the ground and hid his master's money. After a long time, the master of those slaves came and settled accounts with them. Then the one who had received the 5 talents came forward, bringing 5 more talents, saying, 'Master, you handed over to me 5 talents. See, I have made 5 more talents.' His master said to him, 'Well done, good and trustworthy slave. You have been trustworthy in a few things. I will put you in charge of many things. Enter into the joy of your master.' And the one with the 2 talents also came forward, saying, 'Master, you handed over to me 2 talents. See, I have made 2 more talents.' His master said to him, 'Well done, good and trustworthy slave. You have been trustworthy in a few things. I will put you in charge of many things. Enter into the joy of your master.' Then the one who had received the 1 talent also came forward, saying, 'Master, I knew that you were a harsh man, reaping where you did not sow, and gathering where you did not scatter seed. So I was afraid, and I went and hid your talent in the ground. Here, you have what is yours.' But his master replied, 'You wicked and lazy slave. You knew, did you, that I reap where I did not sow, and gather where I did not scatter? Then you ought to have invested my money with the bankers, and on my return I would receive what was my own with interest. So take the talent from him, and give it to the one with the 10 talents. For to all those who have, more will be given, and they will have an abundance. But from those who have nothing, even what they have will be taken away. As for this worthless slave, throw him into the outer darkness, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth.'" This is the gospel of the Lord. Praise the Lord.
Amen.
You know, my mother's been dead more than 7 years, but I hear her voice a lot in my head. As a matter of fact, sometimes I think I hear more from my mother than I do from some of the living people in my life. But anyway, that's another sermon. I have been hearing her voice a lot this past week or so because we've been doing renovations in our house. And as part of the renovations, I've had to clear out my son's rooms on the 3rd floor. I've been finding all kinds of treasures, as you can imagine. Things hidden away in drawers and in closets and at the bottom of boxes and under cushions and in chairs. And so there's been a particular saying of my mother's that keeps resonating in my mind. She had a lot of sayings, some of which I have quoted from this pulpit before. But the one that's been resonating in my mind so much over this past week is this one. Find a penny, pick it up, all the day you'll have good luck. Find a penny, let it lie. Bad luck will follow all the day. I think it's lay, not lie. But anyway, that was my mother. And whenever I see a penny lying on the ground thinking of her, I remember her voice chanting this proverb, and I pick it up. It's silly, really, but I still listen to my mother, even though she's been gone for so long. And whenever I see a penny, just a penny, I do pick it up.
I save the pennies, along with the other coins and loose change that I find in an old skippy jar that belonged to my father. And that's a slit in the lid, and the coins make a wonderful, satisfying plink when I drop them into the jar. My father came of age during the Depression and saved absolutely everything. And so I learned this habit from him, along with the encouragement from my mother's little song. A penny, why bother? That's what my kids always used to say to me. They found this habit of mine, picking up a penny on the sidewalk, very embarrassing. Even a nickel or a dime didn't tempt them. So I went around the house on cleaning day, picking up the change that they couldn't be bothered with. A dime on a chair, a penny on the tea room floor, a nickel in the sofa cushion. And every 6 months or so, I would take my skippy jar to the bank and dump the coins into the change counting machine. And it gave me a receipt, which I gave to the bank teller, who gave me dollars. Not a whole lot of dollars. Not enough to pay for college tuition or the summer vacation, but maybe enough to treat one of my boys to a slice of pizza at Donato's, or an afternoon at the art museum, or a little bit of an extra gift to the SPCA. Something extra that would not otherwise have been in my budget. So whenever I look at that skippy jar, even today, I have this feeling of abundance. Now, a penny isn't much by itself, and my boys were right about that. And yet, still, each time I pick one up, something happens. Something in my imagination. It's more than the anticipated clink of the coin dropping into the jar. It's not just the accumulating weight of the coins, or the self-satisfaction at my own thriftiness, or the promise of some long-saved-for treat. It's not even the connection with my deceased parents, whose values and aphorisms continue on through my little habit and in my head. No, something else happens. Whenever I pick up one of those pennies, I begin to feel generous, wealthy, profligate even. This is money I didn't work for, after all. All of it, every coin of it, was a gift. And it makes me want to spend it with abandon on things that I would not normally indulge. Now, at first hearing our parable for today, it might not seem to fit very well with my penny pickup story. We regular churchgoers know the components of this parable of the talents very well. The master who goes away on a journey, the 3 slaves entrusted with varying numbers of talents, the 2 more generously endowed slaves who invest and increase their master's wealth, the 3rd slave who takes the single talent and buries it in the ground, the praise of the master for the first 2 slaves and his exceedingly harsh indictment of the 3rd. No matter how we interpret it or have it interpreted for us by generations of preachers and stewardship chairs, that final sentence remains unforgettable. As for this worthless slave, throw him into the outer darkness, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Weeping and gnashing of teeth in the outer darkness seems harsh, doesn't it? What did the 3rd slave do to deserve such terrible punishment? After all, he didn't lose the portion of his master's wealth that was in his care. He didn't squander it on his own pleasures, as a character in another well-known parable did, receiving a much more generous reaction from his father when he returned home. All the unfortunate slave in today's parable did was to keep the talent safe, and he did so based on his assessment of his master's character. Master, I knew that you were a harsh man, so I was afraid. And his assessment became a self-fulfilling prophecy out in that outer darkness where he's gnashing his teeth. Why was the 3rd slave given only 1 talent? Why the other given 5 or 2? The story doesn't really say too much about that. My guess is that isn't really the point of the parable, and it would be fruitless to waste our time debating that question. Because time is the point here, don't you see? Jesus tells this parable in the context of a long list of sayings about the kingdom and about the end of time. It is, in fact, the last parable in Matthew's account before Jesus is handed over to death. He didn't have much time, so what he did with the little remaining to him mattered a good deal. And he's telling us, his disciples, guess what? We don't have much time either. The kingdom is coming. In fact, it is already partly here. And so how we spend our time and our talents is of the utmost importance. We can wonder why someone else was given more and be angry about it. We can take what we have been given and bury it in fear. We can look out on the world our God has given to our care and decide that God to be a harsh master. And if we do these things, we will live out a self-fulfilling prophecy in outer darkness, gnashing our teeth, making it all true. But let's step back for a moment from our one talent, if that is in fact what we think we've been given. Let's step back and take another look. It is late November, the season of harvest, the time of giving thanks. The cornucopia, the pilgrim's feast, the fruits of the fields and orchards, all of the symbols of the season are those of abundance. The word abundance derives from the Latin root unda, which means water that flows in waves and overflows. It is a word that evokes the profusion of life, which flows to us as a gift from God. This profusion of life continues to impress itself upon us as we give thanks for this abundance from a good and gracious God. We reflect on the bountiful food on our tables harvested from the rich soil of the good earth, the warm woolens with which we wrap ourselves as we prepare for the snows of winter, our own perhaps unappreciated God-given skills and talents by which we make a life for ourselves and for others. And especially thanksgiving for the community of this church, of friends and family and animal friends who love us with such abandon, even when we don't feel we deserve it. All of this flows from a God who so generously bestows upon us his blessings, which we so often take for granted. A penny isn't much, is it? Or is it? A talent isn't much, or is it? In fact, it is the attitude with which we receive the gift that multiplies it into abundance, or instead buries it in the dark winter soil in fear. Sure, when we dig it up again, it will still be there, unchanged, intact, dead. But what if we see our talent for what it is, an infinitely promising gift, unearned, unasked for, ready to multiply and provide abundance for us and for all around us. A picked up penny in a jar, a single talent invested with confidence, and the expectation that our God is one of rich and abundant rewards. It's all in the attitude, don't you see? We make it true by our own response. Fear will produce harshness and finitude just as expected. Joyful gratitude produces a universe of blessings. It is the season of harvest, friends. Look about. The fields are ripe. The ground is strewn with copper pennies. The air is filled with cascading gold. The wealth of an abundant hand scatters blessings all around us. May we multiply them. May we be thankful. May we encourage each other to say daily, thanks be to God.